take us through a typical day. So again, for people who aren't aware, you touched on it a little bit. Your first job when you came to the U.S., cricket was not at the forefront when you first came after you got your master's. I think you came to Virginia originally because you had cousins or friends in Virginia, and then you worked your way up to New York within a few months in late 2015, early 2016. But your first job, you were in either Brooklyn or Long Island, and you would go into the city to go from hospital to hospital, fixing medical equipment or diagnosing issues with medical equipment so that you could then order the parts to get them fixed. And that could be X-ray machines, MRIs, CAT scan machines, high grade medical equipment. So take us through a typical day. What was a typical day like for you when you first were involved in working these jobs? And especially as you started to rediscover cricket in the New York City cricket scene from 5 a.m., 6 a.m. until 10 o'clock at night. Take us through a typical day in the life of Nosthush Kenjige.
Yeah, sure. So before, like you said, before I rediscovered cricket, it was pretty easy. I didn't have any other responsibility to cater to. So I would wake up at about 7:30, and then I would get my whole schedule of where to go and repair what. So I would drive to any place in the borough, and there would be times when I would had to drive to Boston, Maine. It was actually all of the east side of US. So I could be driving to Northeast, I could be going down south to Philly. I would start my work at around 9 and then go about finishing jobs until 5:36. So at that point, I didn't have anything else to do and it was good money. So I guess I was just living a life that usually people do. And then in a year and a half, cricket came back to my life, and then that got me excited because now I had something to look forward to every day. Like that is something I wanted to do. So, but at the same time, I couldn't quit my job because there was no contracts or there was no money in cricket at that point. So I would make sure I put up my training. So I would go to the gym early morning at around 5:30 or 6, and then finish up my gym training, running, and then head to work straight from there, and then work the whole day, and then wherever I ended up. So there would be times when I would end up in Queens, in Bronx, and then I had to drive all the way down to Jersey. So I would practice in Crickmax. So the guys there, they know I would leave my work at 3:30. I would reach Jersey Crickmax at around 5:30, or even 6 through that traffic and whatnot. So it would be the rush hour. So it was about 2.5 hours of driving straight to Crickmax, get my practice done, and then go home at 8:30 or 9. So that was my schedule once cricket started. And I had nothing to complain about because that is what I enjoyed doing. So I was only complaining about 9 to 5 when I was supposed to work. The rest of the time I was in my elements. I was working out, I was happy, I was practicing what I knew best. So those were the days like which I miss. But now since I don't work, it's a lot easier. So I can be flexible during the day and see what works when and then figure it out.
And this was a 5 day a week activity. This was a 5 day a week routine for you.
Yes, yeah, this would be on the 5 days, and on the weekends we would usually have games. So I would play games in Jersey, mostly in Jersey, and some games in New York. That would be on Saturday, Sunday. Yes.
Now, part of the reason why you were doing this fanatical schedule during Monday through Friday was because at this stage you had attended an ICC combine, an ICC America's USA Cricket Combine in New York City, which is where you were first discovered and identified. That was at Van Cortlandt Park in the summer of 2016. And that's when you were identified and invited to a USA national team camp in Florida that was centered around the CPL when the CPL was still coming to Florida. And that's when you discovered there was this opportunity that existed. You could go play for the USA national team. Not only did you discover it, I think your parents first discovered it then too. They had no idea what the hell was going on and why you were pursuing this lunatic schedule in pursuit of playing international cricket for USA. Part of why you were doing that was the eligibility rules at the time. The rules have since changed, but the ICC had a quirky loophole. Even though you were a citizen, and by rights you really should have been able to represent USA immediately as an American citizen, they still wanted to enforce a requirement that to demonstrate your allegiance or your commitment to the cause, you had to prove that you were coaching or contributing something to the local cricket community X amount of days per year. I think it was 100 days per year. And what was considered 100 days per year was 8 hours. 8 hours of work equaled a day. So if you did this 4 hours a day going to CrickMax in the evening to do coaching or local development work at CrickMax, 4 hours was a half day. Doing it 2 days in a row would equal one day, and you had to just do this nonstop. And then if you did it on a weekend too during the winter, that would be a full day. That was one of the reasons why you're doing this. When you told your parents, what was their reaction?
It's funny. So all of this time when I went to the regionals, the not the regionals, the selections in New York, I told my parents nothing about it. So all they thought was all I was doing was working, because I didn't want to tell them, mainly because they'd lived through all these disappointments of me not getting picked through the age ranks of 13, 15, 17, 19. Like there were times when I would go for zonal selections, state selections, not Ranji, state selections, and not get picked. So at this point, I was like, I'm just not going to tell them. I'm going to try. I'm going to try. And if I get picked, they'll obviously know. So during the whole course of about 4 or 5 months, when I first attended the trials in New York, the indoors place that you were there, and right through the games where I did pretty well, they knew nothing about it. And it was only later when Ricardo Powell called me up. So I was driving from work. I was working at Maine, and it was a Friday. So I was supposed to come back home the same day. So I was driving back home, and Powell called me and he said, "You have been selected for the 30. You have been shortlisted for the 30." I just pulled over. I couldn't control my emotions. I just started crying. And I remember I called my dad. It was around 4:30 in the morning, and he wouldn't pick up. I called my mom. She didn't pick up. And I think an hour later, he called me back, and I had to tell him the whole story of me attending the trials from New York, the indoors place, to all the games that we played in between. And then I told him I'd been shortlisted for the 30. And I think he just broke down too. Like, it was unreal. At that point, I just realized, like, it's now or never. Like, I could have. So they asked me if I wanted to do if I wanted to wait for 3 years or just put in the 100 days of work. Told them it's 100 days any day. Like, nobody gets this opportunity. And I'm so glad it all worked out well. I had to put in all those hours of coaching and development and make sure I'm training too. So all those days of hard work just has got me here. But again, like, this is only the start. I'm just grateful for whatever's happened, and we'll see how it goes on from here.